All right, welcome into another episode of Rain and Kane here on Popland Show YouTube. Hope everyone's had a great week so far as we are looking forward to Oklahoma State heading over to Chapman Stadium coming up on this Saturday. Got word the AAC commissioner is going to be in the house, so your boy here has to do an interview between the first and second quarters, according to an email that I just got today. So yeah, looking forward to it, and it should be a lot of fun. I want to welcome in our first ever guest, like in terms of video of zooming in, and that's a guy that, man, I miss terribly. Especially Fridays. We used to have this little ditty that we called Black Fridays, where Deion would come in and hang out with us on the radio. I miss being on the radio in general, but I really miss Fridays of just hanging out, and just laughing nonstop during breaks and telling stories. But you guys, if you've listened to me before, you know Deion Imade played football at Oklahoma State. Is part of the Oklahoma State Radio Network now. Also, the Old Pokes podcast that's on OSU Max. They were fortunate enough. I'm fortunate enough. They were nice enough to ask me to come on. I was fortunate enough to receive the invite. So, without further ado, let's welcome in Deion Imade. Deion, what's up, my man?
What's popping? What's up, Pop?
Man, it's good to see you twice in one week, and then we'll make it three times coming up on Saturday. Man, I miss hanging out on the radio with you, my man.
Bro, I like Fridays are so weird now because I still have that half a day with the day job, and I still have to head to Oklahoma City to do games for Cox Review and everything with the on the high school side of things. But that middle portion where in my day where I have like nothing to do and I'm not running around crazy and I don't get to hang out with you and Colby and and all the guys, Scott and everybody. Yeah, it's weird. I miss radio so much.
Yeah,
So
man. I
yeah.
know it gets in your blood. You got to be careful. Don't let it get too deep now,
Yeah,
because then
man,
you'll be
it
craving about going back for sure.
it's
Yeah, it's
itching.
definitely weird, man. It's
Yeah.
definitely weird. Hey, before we get started with just OSU talk, I got to ask you one thing, and it reminded me. I think I sent you this picture. Did I send you the picture of Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Dolphins, for what he looks like now after he's been living in Miami for a couple of years? All
Yeah,
right,
man.
so the Dolphins are playing tonight and they're playing the Bills, and I was laughing because my man has like a Miami starter kit on now. He looks expensive now, is what he looks. He's let the hair go a little curly. He's got the expensive watch on. He's dressing differently. He's got the chain. So my question to you is, what would a Miami version of Mike Gundy look like? Can you picture that in your brain about what would Miami do to Mike Gundy?
Oh, bro, that would be because Mike is like all about like he's not in the know, but his boy, like we had an interview with him to start the season off when we had OSU Media Day. Me and Clint went down there and talked to a couple of players, and Mike Gundy was like the first one. And I me, bro, I love style and shoes and everything. So I sat down. I was like, Coach. I mean, you still got you dripping, bro. You got the chain on. You got, you the only like head coach that like walks in. He has his own style. He wears the jeans everywhere, tucks in the shirt. So he's just got some swag about him. So, and he's of the culture. Oklahoma State, it's still, an agricultural school where, it's a lot of, cowboys and individuals who farm and stuff. And Coach Gundy has a bunch of land and his dad, farms and everything. So, I think if you took him out of this culture and put him into Miami, bro, like you'd see a swagged out, like the chain would be, you
I'm
just
telling you,
it just amplify him.
why do I have a feeling like he would start to have almost like a Tony Montana starter kit, like shirt halfway unbuttoned a little bit, you know?
He showing the chest a little bit. He works out for a
Yeah,
reason now. Like the shirts would be a
yeah.
little tighter, the chain would be bigger. Like what would the hairstyle be though?
That's what I'm thinking of the most. I think there's a part of it that I still think it'd be a little long,
Yeah.
but maybe he might try to have it look like, remember Razor Ramon from WWE?
Yeah.
Scott Hall when he played it, like he had
Yeah.
the toothpick slicked back a little bit, a little curly on the back end. Yeah, I think it would be that. But Mike's a wiry guy anyway, and so his kind of the way that he's built would fit in down there almost perfectly. Like I'm just trying to picture Mike even with like a darker tan than what he has now. Oh, Miami Mike Gundy would be something.
Do you think like Gundy would it be clean shaven, or would he try to keep the 5 o'clock shadow, or would he like beard it
Yeah.
out?
No, he's
Yeah,
got it. I think he'll keep a little stubble.
bro, I think he would
That big
love
Cuban
Miami.
link chain hanging around his neck.
Bro, that chain would be so thick, man. Like, cause he already rocks it now. You can see
Uh-huh.
the rope chain back there. It's always hanging at the back of his
Yeah.
neck. It that thing would be thick now.
He'd be best friends with like Trick Daddy. Like
Bro, he'd have Trick Daddy and Michael Irvin and all those guys coming
yeah,
up to the practices and whatnot.
it'd be spectacular.
How
Spectacular.
man, Snoop would be up there so fast.
All right. What's the reaction been after Oklahoma State's performance against Arkansas in a game that outsiders perspective, one, I thought that Arkansas probably should have won that game,
Mm.
but because I don't know how many times that a team has got 650 yards of offense and still ended up coming up short. So what's the reaction been, and has there been any panic, if that's the proper way to phrase it, or concern from the fan base?
I don't think it's been panic, and you got to commend the Oklahoma State's fan base from that standpoint for not panicking, just because you have a staff that you have a lot of trust in, and you have a veteran presence on the team that you have a lot of trust in. Now, is there some concern? Definitely some concern, bro. Definitely some, because you got to remember, coming into this situation, coming into this season, we returned the Doak Walker Award winner. Okay. We returned, six guys on the offensive line that have played, 1,000 some odd snaps together. So I think everybody looking at the numbers that are being put together running the football leaves everybody concerned. I mean, the performance there versus Arkansas, I think the coaching staff isn't like, you got to remember, Arkansas came into the situation where I think they have like 55 or 54 transfers on top of the fact that they played Arkansas Pine Bluff, and this is no shade to Arkansas Pine Bluff, but you guys know who you are. And they put up 70 points on y'all, and they put it up easy where they didn't have to show anything on tape. So going into that game versus a superb offensive coordinator like Bobby Petrino, there were so many variables that was unknown defensively for the Cowboys. And going into a situation where that quarterback was good, but we didn't know how good Green was. Throwing against the zone defense, picking things apart, and then just being able to utilize his legs, which what everybody was afraid of. It was just a recipe for disaster. But they got things fixed in the second half, so I think you can kind of put your, rest easy on that standpoint.
Well, it's a weird time at this point during the college football season. You're 2 games in now, and you don't really know. Like, is there a possibility that we could get 4 or 5 weeks down the road and we're like, damn, Arkansas is pretty good? I think that there might be a chance. They're better than what they were last year.
Way
It's the
better.
same way everyone right now trying to gauge like the Miami and Florida situation. Like, Miami blew Florida's doors off, and I don't think that Florida's has improved at all. But is there a chance that we change our perspective when we get 5, 6 weeks down the road and we look and say, "Oh my gosh, like Miami, it might be a playoff contender out of the ACC"? Like we just don't know right now because there's not enough context in the season.
I mean, that's the perfect way, and I think it goes with that, like with every football season. You
Yep.
you always come into a place where you don't exactly know what you have because you can only grade it on so much competition. Now, the top dogs, like those guys like Georgia and
Yeah,
Texas,
we get
so
that.
we
Yeah.
get that, but those teams that are fighting for that, fourth through 11 playoff spot, we don't
Well,
know.
Clemson might fit that category, bro. Like Clemson opens up with Georgia.
Yeah.
Like they may still win 10 games. We just don't know.
And you got to remember, like Clemson played those guys super tough in the first half. You got to remember, like at halftime, I think it was either tied 6-6 or it was like 6-0 Georgia. So, and then Georgia being who they are, they have the best football minds, so to speak, in college football over there because they can hire and pay the money that they can. So they got things figured out in the second half, but
Yeah.
they were sticking tough with those guys.
So what have been and what are a few of the storylines from the first couple of games that you've seen that stand out to you about Oklahoma State in general?
First and foremost, Ollie Gordon is the big focal point, the poster board for this team. So everybody's kind of concerned that doesn't have those big numbers that we would have expected early on in the season, first and
My man
foremost.
was in court this morning too, so he
I
was on the
saw I
dock.
saw I saw you tweet that out.
He
I don't
was
know
on the
how did that
docket at
go?
8 a.m., man.
Man, hey, sometimes we've all been there. Maybe it's jury duty, and maybe it's you have a speeding ticket, but we've all been there. But that's definitely the focal point. Second of all, now defensively, Colin Oliver. What's the situation there? I mean, best pass rusher, maybe in the Big 12. His status and his health. That's a big major concern for Oklahoma State. And I see you. What? Go ahead, Pop.
Well, no, I was going to ask you, what does a loss like that mean for this team? I mean, they've got some other really good defenders that are there, but for anyone that's just a Tulsa fan, the loss of Colin Oliver seems rather significant, man.
Oh, it's big time, big time. Honestly, in my opinion, it's probably the second guy on the defense that you can't afford to lose, only because Nick Martin is there and he's like the engine that makes that whole defense go, and he erases so many mistakes because he plays sideline to sideline. Colin Oliver is definitely a guy that helps you get off the field on third down and puts you in situations to get off the field, like extend like turns 2nd and 5 into 3rd and 10 with his ability to pressure the quarterback, and he's the best friend to the secondary where you're getting hurries from quarterbacks and stuff. But the bright side of that, though, I think we might have found another individual in Nzimbo that can come off the edge and be, I don't, it's hard to replace a guy like number 30. It's hard to replace an individual and that leadership because a lot of those guys look up to him. But on the field, production wise, guys are going to have to step up. And I think we found somebody in number 33 who can do that.
To your point about production, to me, there's always something to be said too about not just a leader, but every now and then, and you've played with guys like this, they're just hey, we know we have that guy that's going to make a play when we need it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a collection of those guys, and they're so valuable. Sometimes it feels like that teams can almost be shell shocked when they lose their guy that they know in the back of their mind, hey, if someone needs to make a play, that's more than likely 90% of the time the guy that's going to get us off the field here on third down. And it takes a little while for everyone else to kind of realize, oh, someone else has to do this now. We have to come together because we lost that guy.
That's crazy that you say that because it's like those guys are like born. They're not produced, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like you got to think about Taylor, safety that plays for the LA Rams right
Yeah,
now.
Jason Taylor. Yeah.
He was making plays when he wasn't even playing. You know what I'm saying? Like on special
Mm-hmm.
teams, the ball would just find a way to get in his lap, things like that. Colin Oliver was making plays like that his freshman year. As soon as he stepped onto campus, he was the guy who sacked Caleb Williams in the Big Bedlam game his freshman year. Like guys like that are just like they're born. Like those moments aren't too big for them. They know like they just have that extra energy in their tank to kind of make those plays. And it's tough, especially losing that individual. But I think losing that individual in the early part of the season is a benefit to the Cowboys defense because now you have many opportunities. Like they only had him for 2 games, a game and a half, excuse me. I mean, he was gone by halftime. So now this defense's DNA has to get formed around, without 30. And although it's hard to say and it hurts to say, these guys have to get familiar and create this defense without him. So somebody's going to have to, step up and be known as that guy this year. And I think it allows you more opportunities to do so early in the season without him being there.
I want to go back to the defense in a bit, but there's one thing that keeps rattling around in my empty head, and it's something that Kevin Wilson said this week. and it's looking from an offensive perspective. And Kevin said, they're just a complete offense. One, because they have everybody that's coming back from up front. You have Ollie, Allen maybe caught a stray from Kevin Wilson in some of his comments, and I don't think that that was necessarily pointed at just Alan Bowman. I think that was Kevin Wilson's thoughts on 7-year players in general on
Yeah.
that. Um, but calling them a complete offense, and he said that because you look at every single position group, and whether it's the tight ends, whether it's running back, offensive line, Bowman, who's got all the experience, we know the quality of receivers that they have. But I think the one thing that concerns him the most is just how effective they are in the RPO game. And that is something that Kevin has talked about a lot over the last couple of weeks.
I mean, it's easy to be effective in that game when you have the weapons that you do. Because, I
Yeah.
mean, you have to worry about number zero, Ollie, coming out of the backfield. You have to worry about Stribling and Presley and Owens and like there's just too many weapons from
Because
that
they're going to
standpoint.
hammer you one way or the other. Like
One way,
it's a pick your poison type scenario.
one way or the other, it's gonna happen, and you can, and so I think what's most important for this offense and something that they really haven't done a good job of doing is kind of getting in rhythm. Like you saw Arkansas last week, when that offense got in rhythm, they were humming. And I just haven't seen that from our offense thus far. I mean, that opening drive, watch out. Those scripted plays, it's money. And Coach Dunn scripts plays with the best of them,
Yeah.
But when,
Reminded you a little bit of Sark. Like the one thing about
yeah,
Sark is Sark has all those scripted plays, but the times when they've struggled is when they've gone off of script.
yeah. And a lot of some of it is right now the wide receivers and Bowman, let's not sugarcoat it. The wide receivers did not have a good game versus Arkansas. A lot of, mix-ups and miscommunications and drop passes that could have equated to a lot of success early in the game. That's something that we're going to have to look for this week if they've got that corrected and fixed because it's just you just can't hide it. Guys running into each other, guys running the wrong route, Bowman, hitting guys. It was just a catastrophe. And unfortunately, these are veteran dudes that this should not be happening with. And Casey
Yeah.
Dunn, this is his main, all the most coordinators are quarterback coaches. No, our coordinator is the wide receiver coach. So this is something that they really have to hone in on and get fixed up.
How has Bowman played? The quarterback's always going to catch the majority of the heat,
Yeah.
right? Not that you feel sorry for him. I don't
Not at
feel
all.
sorry for him either because
Not
look
at
at
all.
and I'm not saying feel sorry for just Bowman in general, but the old joke is you quarterbacks got it so rough, right? I mean, you get all the attention, everything on campus. I think you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Typically good at golf, like everything that they do, they just have it. So uh, Bowman has some extra attention around him because there was some concern with his level of play through a particular period of time last year. So how has he responded, and does he look different through 2 games to you?
That's a great question. I wanted to ask that question to a lot of individuals on the first game just to see if I, you know, was seeing the same thing that I was seeing last year. And luckily for me, my partner, Clint Shelf, he's able to kind of break down quarterbacks with the best of them in this
My
state.
Twitter hero, by the way. I need to make that apparent
Yeah,
again. I
I'm
love going
telling
on
you, bro.
Twitter.
He needs to. Sometimes I'm like, chill, Clinton, chill. But nah, we got to let him go. But yeah, he's broken it down on on our show, the Old Poke Show, considerably about his footwork and how much it's getting better. But he'll point it out sometimes when he goes back to some of the stuff that we saw last year, throwing off his back foot, not being squared up. So it seems like there's been a like the progress, you can see it, but now it's all about being consistent on a
Yeah.
week basis, as well as having that rapport. with those wide receivers as well, because sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes those 5 yard outs end up at Brennan Presley's feet, and we're looking at him like, what are you doing? And sometimes those 10 yard outs to Stribling are really outside of his range, and Stribling has to make a miraculous catch. Those are things that need to be fixed, because it can turn drives from that get 3 and outs to you progressing down the field that helps the defense out a lot, which is what we're trying to do, Alan, help the defense. Not feeling salty about that at all.
You brought up Brennan Presley. I was laughing the other day because we were editing some video, obviously because the storyline is, brothers playing against each other and family members that are going to be there. You have brothers, so maybe this is true, but those two are so different, man. Like so different in the way they carry each other, so different in just like I look at Braylon and Braylon is like, yes, sir, like buttoned down and then I the clip that we had of Brennan was post game and he had like his headphones like on the top of his head, he had his backpack on, he was chomping gum, he was like Soup's Cash, but he took Soup's Cash to like 100 different levels and he was just going back and forth, but they're so different. And that's one thing that I was laughing about, just seeing those two videos next to each other. But make no mistake about it, like Brennan has a chance to leave that school as one of the most prolific pass catchers in Oklahoma State history. And that's incredible to think about. And I feel like maybe I'm wrong on this. Doesn't it feel like it's been kind of quiet that is the case of how good that he's been? And maybe that's because I'm outside of Stillwater, but man, I don't. You think about the guys that rolled through there. I mean, some legit greats in college football, and numbers wise, like he just keeps moving on up the ladder, man.
Bro, all you have to say is Hartley Dykes and Justin Blackman and Dez Bryant, and then you're like, oh, and then Presley has a chance to get, like, I saw something on Twitter where it was like, will Presley catch Justin Blackman this week? And I was just like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah, it's so quiet.
I wasn't even like in the know about this. And the reason why is like because of the way Presley kind of gets it done. Like, you got to remember, he's like Alan Bowman's security. As much as people want to think that it's Owens with his big body and his presence, it's Presley.
Yeah,
And he's such a Swiss Army knife that Casey Dunn gets him the ball in so many different fashions. And a lot of times, it's not those big time gainers that we're used to seeing big time Oklahoma State wide receiver stars get. It's not like a James Washington where he's like throwing the ball 50 yards down the field. It's not like a Blackman or Dez making spectacular grabs and plays. It's just a consistent route running, those pivot plays, those jet sweeps. It's all design creative, intermediate stuff that offense desperately needs, but the fan base isn't like getting out of their seat every time he touches the ball. So I think that's why it's also so quiet. And also he's overshadowed by Ollie Gordon and guys in
yeah.
the past that he's played with. That's why it's quiet. But I mean, it kind of matches his demeanor. I mean, I feel like Presley's been here so long that you could tell like his confidence is just like, bro, this is just another day in the life of being Brennan Presley, bro. He's just so chill about it. And it's almost like it's like that with brothers. Like you mentioned, I have brothers, and I'm kind of like, Braylon, where, yes sir, no sir, clean cut, button up. My older brother, just the chillest dude. He's just gonna do what he wants. And if you like him, you do.
And
If you don't, you
comfortable
don't.
with it.
Comfortable with
Like
it.
like completely comfortable in his skin. Nothing rattles him. He's just he this is me, man. This is me.
The way he talks to the media, like, just like, first of all, I think he talks to them because he's known these same media members his whole
Yes.
entire, athletic career from
Yeah.
Bixby to now. So it's like, bro, I see you guys I've been talking to you guys for like 10 years now. So it's like he has this like familiarity with them, and you can hear it when he has a conversation and has interviews with these guys.
How's the back end of the Oklahoma State defense look to you?
I was a little concerned after South Dakota State. It just seemed like the same mistakes that were being made last year were made in that game. but Coach Duffy and Coach Herman, they cleaned that thing up really good. They kind of nipped that in the bud the first week, and the although there were some some talented wide receivers that got loose, it you can tell that these guys are honing into the little things. They're playing a little bit more disciplined. Trey Rucker, goodness gracious, bro. Like he is doing a good job of keeping his eyes on his keys and playing fast and aggressive. This defense, not only the back end, but this defense tackles better than any
It
defense
looks
that I've
that way on film.
like early in the season, Pop. Like
Yeah.
deep. It's kind of hard to kind of gauge what a defense gonna be like early in the season because they haven't had a lot of tackling in practice, trying to keep the guys healthy. But these guys are tackling well early, and that gives me a lot of confidence.
Feel like that just based off of numbers and the way that the defense performed last year. I know the offense will get obviously a lot of the hype with all the guys that are returning, but to me, there was just as much pressure on this defense to improve from even like individuals on the offensive side, whether you just want to label Bowman or not. But man, I mean, there was clearly some room for improvement in year two for this defense.
Yeah, man. I mean, especially, replacing one guy, which Xavier Benson, and then Kendall Daniels comes in and plugs that role as well as Colin Oliver, who's out now. And then, Justin Wright, coming back from injury. And although unfortunately he got a little banged up too, so we've had to put guys in place of him as well. It was a lot of question marks within that kind of interior, and then they came in and replaced some of the guys on the back and brought in some guys in the back end as well to kind of add some depth. So it was we didn't know what we were going to get, but from our star players, we knew what we were going to get. And so it gave us some confidence. And then there's still a lot of improvement that needs to be made, but I mean, I'm intrigued on what this defense is going to be able to accomplish in the rest of the season and mainly in Big 12 play.
Feel like that the schedule is kind of set up perfectly
Mm.
for Oklahoma State because I know Utah, and then there's some questions about Cam Rising, after the Tulsa game is over. But my point is that you've got everyone coming back, but South Dakota State is built upon being a physical brand of football, no matter what level that they play at.
Yeah.
That was a they're good. And you
Yeah.
saw why that they're good. Arkansas out of the SEC. Then you've got Tulsa. You've had quite the physical test at least through the first 2 weeks, and we'll see how this week goes on Saturday. But I like it. I like the schedule that they have now. Maybe I wouldn't have liked it if you didn't have all these guys back,
Right.
for this season for this run, but it's timed out perfectly that you're not going to be on the field with Utah and be like, oh, damn, like this is our first like real big physical test.
Yeah, I think South Dakota State was perfect for us to kind of get tested up, banged and bruised up a little bit to kind of handle that, as well as facing a big like, bro, Arkansas's interior players, like the trenches, the defensive line and the offensive line, bro, they were giving it to them boys. They were
Yeah.
so that was good to see that test early as well. I know TU is gonna, I mean, they always play, Oklahoma
Yeah.
State always. So those three tests, and then going into Utah, and then going down even further after that, Kansas State. You know my theory, Pop. There's always teams in the Big 12 where you want to play them in the first half, and then the teams you want to play in the second half of the season. And
Yeah.
Kansas State is definitely a team that you want to play in the first half, especially with their young quarterback right now. I mean, he's a big talent, but I don't want to see Kansas State after he kind of gets some things figured out and gets rolling. So Oklahoma State has a good schedule and it's lined up pretty well, especially with, Cam Rising. I see how that lines up. But yeah, right now it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good.
So the game's a sellout now, and um, it's always funny because you have some that are Oklahoma State fans that are on the fence about we don't want to play them. And if you're on that fence, sorry, because you're going to see Tulsa a lot in the next 9 years with the way that
Yeah.
that deal is signed. But what are your thoughts about Oklahoma State playing Tulsa?
Bro, I love it.
just in
First of all,
general.
I'm in Tulsa, so
Yeah,
it's like an easy drive for your boy, and you need that in-state school, right? Because it team Tulsa getting better only helps Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State being a power helps Tulsa. Like those things have to work they need to work hand in hand, and it only benefits both of them. I love the fact that we have, a sponsored game where both of us can benefit. That needs to be an occurrence that needs to happen. I mean, iron sharpens iron, and I think Tulsa will get us ready for the Big 12, and we'll get Tulsa ready for conference play. My question to you though is like, what challenges is Oklahoma State gonna face with Tulsa? Like as far as position groups and players that are gonna challenge and make Oklahoma State better going forward. What position groups are
yeah.
you?
I still think Tulsa's defense is the strength of their defense is their defensive line. That's just what it is. They're so much more improved at linebacker now than what they were over the past couple of years. You've got guys that have played at Power Five level that are now playing linebacker. Even from the jack position, like edge rush, you've got guys that have played at Power Five level, and Miles Jackson that's coming in. So you're seeing a variety of different type of talent. So those guys are physical, and they're never going to just roll over. They're going to give you everything that they've got. So I think that's the one area. And then, the other area, I offensively, if the line can hold up and Tulsa can actually find a way to incorporate the tight ends actually in the game plan as far as being able to use them as weapons, they got some studs, man. They got some flat out studs that are big dudes that can run, absolutely run. They got good running backs. It's all going to be hinging on how well that offensive line performs on Saturday. They've got young guys, and they're just going to have to deal with that the entire season because they're going to play. This is a developmental program, and Kevin has said that, and we have to find a way to play young guys, is what he said, because they need to get on the field and get experience and play, because then the battle starts of trying to keep them at some point, right? Get them experience, and if you're Tulsa and you know that you can use the portal in some ways, maybe not like everyone else can. And your pitch is to going into high schools if the majority of your recruiting is going to be through the high school ranks, and that's what the last class was, that's what this class will be, and moving forward, that's going to be their strategy. Because of all the reckless behavior in the portal that's going on, a lot of guys kind of around signing day are like, "Oh, I had an offer, now it's not there anymore."
Mm,
Right? And
yeah.
and Tulsa keeps these relationships with them, and then you go to them and be like, "Hey, we've been here the entire time. Oh, by the way, you're going to come here and you're going to play as a freshman." 16 freshmen in the two deep on both sides, man. That that the majority of them are going to play.
Yeah, I think that's something that, I mean, that's an advantage that Tulsa has that they can utilize
Yeah.
desperately. And on top of that, I mean, there's really good talent here in Oklahoma,
Oh
here
my gosh, yes.
on the east side and the west side of the state. And so getting those guys, even if they go to big Power Four programs, then Power Five now, I guess with the Pac-12 trying to add some teams to the to the mix.
Oh God, don't even get me started. Don't
I
even get me
guess we could.
started, man.
I guess now though, they're adding some teams. We can call it Power
Yeah.
Five again. But
That's the equivalent, by the way, of I love how all of them are like, finally, we're going to the Pac-12. I'm like, that's kind of like Sports Illustrated. It ain't the same anymore, man. Like you can slap the logo on there. You might as well go buy a fake Nike shirt at the fair. That's basically what you're getting.
yeah, Fresno State. I'm sorry, bro, but I mean, you're
No.
it's the
Yeah.
Pac-12 of old, not the Pac-12.
Yeah, exactly.
But they'll figure it out. We'll see what comes of it. But it's like, those kids in this state that are going to those universities and that are entering the transfer portal and want to come home, guys like a Potter, at
Yeah,
linebacker right now, that's something that they can truly benefit from. Like
it'll be
guys that
good.
want to come home. Oklahoma State's got to do the same thing. I mean, guys who want to come home, you'll be in that pool for. So, you know.
And I think Zoom's getting ready to cut us off, and I'm cheap ass. I'm not buying. I'm not buying a full Zoom membership. So we'll wrap this up. But I told you the other day, I think you've come a very long way. I listened to you Saturday at halftime. That was one of the best segments that I've heard you do ever in breaking down. And I hope that you keep up that same amount of energy. And I know you will, because you're a guy that has passion for what you're doing and is never just going to be lackadaisical and be a lazy ass about it. So keep up the great work, man. I think you've really turned into quite the analyst there on the Oklahoma State Radio Network.
Man, I appreciate it, Pop, and I mean, thanks for all your mentorship and your friendship and ever always, giving me a mic and a platform, bro. I appreciate you letting me borrow that journalism certification from you and teaching
Oh
me so
yeah,
much.
and you know what's it's crazy. It's crazy just how much like since the radio thing went down, like how much radio has changed in Tulsa just from like the sports perspective. Like
Yeah.
it's wild. It's wild, which is why I miss that. I mean, we got one station that's allowing people to host 2 hours from a cell phone. I'm like, do you guys not know that sounds like shit? Like, what are you doing? Like honestly, like I don't. It just it's crazy out there right now in the sports landscape. So I miss it, and you were a big part of that, man. And more importantly, though, it's the friendship that I have with you, even outside of the radio thing, man. So appreciate you, and thanks for jumping on.
Always, Pop. Hit me up whenever you need me, man, and I'm gonna do the same. So trust me.
That sounds great, my man. All right, everyone have a great night. Don't forget, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. Smash that like button. Oh God, I
Yeah.
punched myself in the face for saying that. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you back. Try to do maybe a little preview before the game on Saturday. We'll see if I don't know. Maybe I'll throw a quick camera in front of Holcomb. Maybe I'll get Robert Allen to come over. We'll just do like a quick little thing, and I'll post it real quick. But we'll have more content leading into Saturday's game, and then we'll have a full recap after that game on Saturday as well. Like, subscribe, and thank you for tuning in here on Rain and Kane.